Welcome, everyone, to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, TJ, and with me here, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the grumpy old man. They say there's no shame to his game because he's always the same.
That's me.
Grump, how are you doing on this fine Saturday evening?
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I see. I guess you got the memo that we're wearing green today, or this like pastel-y looking green color today, Grumpy. What are the odds? What are the odds? Anyway, for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. This is a once a week All Islanders podcast that takes place every single Saturday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're new to the channel and you like our content, you like the podcast, you like the topics we discover, you like the thoughts that we have, there's a few things that we encourage you to do. Even hell, if you find us funny, anything, if you enjoy the content, just period, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and to like the video, Grumpy Old Man, because if you like the video, that helps the algorithm, right? That's going to go ahead and get, I guess, this podcast out to the masses, and also it's going to go ahead and let us know you like the content that we are putting out. Grumpy, you got echo right now. But another item we just want to make sure we cover of housekeeping is we do have a secondary podcast called TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. It's a once a week all sports podcast that takes place every single Sunday, Grump, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Is there a reason why you must say my name? Is there a reason? I'm listening to you. I don't believe me. I don't want to look at you. You're fucking hideous. I don't want to look at you. I can hear you. I don't need to be looking at you all the time. I do not.
You are a little ornery today, Grumpy. What's going on?
Because I don't like it. I don't like it when you just say my name and just do your spiel and let's get going.
You know why I'm saying your name, don't you?
I have no idea why.
You have a UFO landing picking you up tonight. Come on, Grump. You're watching the TV. Come on, Grumpy. Anyway, we do have an all sports podcast. It takes place every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, called TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. Again, it's all sports show. You could find it in the link in the description below or as a feature page here on our YouTube channel. We talk anything and everything stats, hockey, soccer, baseball, basketball, college, like pretty much anything and everything sports on that show. Again, you'll see it down at the bottom, right where you pull up the Islanders Never Said Die podcast. You'll see TJ and the Grumpy Old Man right down there at the bottom. So that's where you're able to find that show. It takes place tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I guess we have a little bit of Islanders news. Today's podcast is going to be kind of twofold before we start getting into comments and getting into, I guess, that area of the show. We're going to cover a few things. Lou Lamoriello and Patrick Waugh came out and addressed the public. They addressed the fan base. They addressed the media just recently. Hey, at least it didn't take them 4 weeks to address the media like it did last time. So they addressed the media relatively promptly, or relatively promptly after they got knocked out of the postseason by the Carolina Hurricanes. And we're also going to go ahead and talk about, kind of our thoughts on that, what they discussed, what they talked about during that exit interview, I guess we'll say. And we're going to go ahead and talk about the best route forward, right? And we'll have to preface it, right? We've done these videos quite often. Dating back 3+ years ago, and every year, at the longer we wait, the route and the best route forward becomes more and more grotesque. It is more and more painstaking at that point. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the best route forward, because people want to hear. People think we only come up with criticism but no solution. So
I don't care what people say. I could care less what anyone says. I don't care what they say. I do not. I'm right. They're wrong. It's just that plain and simple.
Nothing like being nothing grumpy. Look at you. You don't want to offer any sort of solutions. I'm fine offering solutions.
I've offered solutions. The morons who run this team choose not to. You know what they do? They do nothing. You want to know what they're going to do this offseason? Absolutely nothing. They will do nothing. Listen to the words he said at his postseason presser. This is a jumping off start for next year. You know what that tells me? Nothing is going to be done this offseason. Nothing. Nothing. They're going to do nothing. And just enjoy it. Enjoy maybe squeaking into the playoffs next year and getting shit canned by whoever you play. It doesn't matter who it is. The Islanders are done. Next season is already over. We haven't even made it to the offseason. And next season's over already. Over. No money, no brains, no creativity. It spells failure. Sorry.
Well, I think we're going to jump into it.
You watch. What's he ever done in the offseason? The old man, the fossil. What's he ever done in the offseason to make this team better? Nothing.
People are going to say
picking up 40-year-old defensemen, picking up 39-year-old defensemen, picking up 38-year-old wingers, third-line wingers.
We traded away the 13th overall pick for Alexander Romanov, Grumpy. Don't forget about him.
That's been a flop, too.
I'll say this before we start jumping in. The thing that I think is important to go ahead and mention, the reason why, right? Last show, we talked about this team is not good enough, right? We're not going to be hammering that dead horse at this point, because I think it is blatantly obvious, right? The Carolina Hurricanes, who made quick work of the New York Islanders, they beat them 4-1. And I'll tell you this, I don't think the Hurricanes are playing great hockey. And guess what?
No, I disagree.
They're not. But okay, that's fine. Just like I said last show, I said the Hurricanes have no shot in hell beating the Rangers playing hockey like they're playing right now against the Rangers. Sure enough, that's what's happened. The Rangers have absolutely absolutely thwarted the Carolina Hurricanes. The Hurricanes are 0-16 on the power play. The Hurricanes are not playing well right now.
I totally disagree with that assessment. The reason Carolina is not winning is because their goaltending, like we said last year in the offseason, was not good enough. Freddie Anderson's good enough to be shit teams like the Islanders, but you play a good team, he's not good enough. Kochetkov might eventually be good enough. Freddie Anderson is not. He can't cover a puck at his feet to save his life. Against the Islanders, he's let in 4 goals that he just drops the puck, can't cover it, won't cover it, incapable of seeing it. I don't know what the hell his problem is. Looks like he needs to see an eye dog in net, honestly, with some of the goals he's given up this offseason. He's terrible. Here's the thing. He's plenty good enough to beat a lowly team like the Islanders or Washington or any of the shit squads who don't deserve to make the playoffs. But if you look watching any of the playoff games and series in this round, you're like, holy shit. The Islanders look like they're about 50 years away from being a team that can contend.
Colorado and Dallas look like they're playing a different sport.
Another planet. They're on another planet.
And again, we're fortunate, right, that they're in the Western Conference. But, the point being, I think Carolina has many deficiencies on their team. I think that this year, we're not taking a deep dive into Carolina. Long story short, you're 0-16 on a power play 4 games in. Yeah, that's not the same power play that scored 5 goals on 15 attempts against us is 0 for 16 against the Rangers. That's all I'm going to mention.
It didn't hurt Carolina when Brett Pesce went out against the Islanders, but he's getting exposed by the Rangers.
You mean D'Angelo? Tony D'Angelo is getting exposed, right?
Yes, Tony D'Angelo is absolutely getting it. Now, the Islanders couldn't expose him because, well, Islanders just aren't good enough. But the Rangers are absolutely exposing him. He's a liability. Every time he's out on the ice, he's a liability. Anderson's terrible. And the one thing they need, and everyone knows I like Carolina, they need a heart transplant like Florida got a couple of years ago when they got Matt Tkachuk. That's the type of player that Carolina needs. They need somebody with some snarl. They don't have anyone like that on their team. That's what they need.
Yeah,
Carolina. I could fix Carolina's problems with 3 easy steps. The Islanders, I mean, I could write War and Peace trying to figure out what the hell they need to do to get better.
We're gonna be talking about that. So good.
Well, we're not doing a 40-hour show.
We're taking a dive. We're taking a dive in the best route forward. So don't worry, Grumpy. You're gonna have your
give up. Tank.
Well, okay. So let me finish here real quick though. Right? Hurricanes not playing great hockey. They have issues. The Rangers are making quick work. I'll be honest with you. I'm happy we did not play the Rangers in the first round. But last podcast, right? The podcast last week, and I guess even today, it further cements it. This team is not a Stanley Cup contender. We are not close to a Stanley Cup contender. Anybody who's telling you we're close to a Stanley Cup contender is lying to you. When you even watch Florida against Boston, Florida's manhandling Boston. Aside from the first game, Florida would manhandle us as well. The Rangers would be manhandling the Islanders. The Hurricanes manhandled the Islanders. There's a lot of teams that are out there that would manhandle this team. And this team, when you look at the way that's constructed, we're a team where a lot of the guys and a lot of the pieces are cemented in. It's not like we have, hey, this is a young budding prospect that's going to have huge impact for us. We don't have necessarily those type of guys that are coming into the works. We're not going to be making huge free agent acquisitions this offseason because we don't have the cap space. Our general manager is not a guy who is creative making trades. So again, the preface of this is, if you go watch last episode, the team is not a Stanley Cup contender. So today we're going to be talking about the comments that Grumpy alluded to earlier. Lou Lamoriello and Patrick Waugh came out and spoke about, and then the best route forward. I will say this. You're right, Grumpy. When they went out and said, we're going to use the second half of this season's performance as a, what do they say? A jumping spot or
jumping off point. Yeah, good enough.
Jumping off point. We played so great in the second half of this season. We're going to take that right into next year, and that's going to catapult us to a Stanley Cup.
It's the same exact team. They got shit canned against Carolina last year. They got shit canned against Carolina this year. So next year we'll get shit canned against Carolina again. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. For anyone who thinks that, well, this is great, because I hear certain members of the fan base who just, oh, this is great. I'm happy that, it's like it's better than it was before. Well, you know what? You're a shithead fan. Anyone who says that, I have zero use for any of you, because you're a loser. An absolute flat-out loser. If you can't tell this team isn't good enough and you're just happy being a loser, root for a losing organization like the Islanders, because that's what we are right now. We're losers. We're absolutely losers. We are never going to win with this group. We're never going to win with the old man as general manager, ever. Never freaking ever. I told you years ago, as soon as he didn't make changes to that Tampa Bay team, again, against Tampa Bay after that series, we're never winning with him. We are never winning with this guy. What's the best thing that could happen to the Islanders? I could get a little dark right now and tell you what it really is.
Let's not and say we did, because I'm sure everybody knows what you're implying, Grumpy. Please, let's stop.
I didn't imply anything.
Okay. The best thing that can happen is that Lou Lamoriello steps down and he grooms somebody.
He ain't stepping down. He wants to. He's like Hyman Roth. He thinks he's going to live forever and dying from the same heart attack for 20 years. He thinks he's going to live forever. Got to get rid of a guy like that. Get rid of him.
Hyman Roth, a Godfather reference for those unaffiliated.
Godfather Part 2.
Yes. I will say this. The fact that they came out, he started the interview in typical Lou fashion. we're not going anywhere. So you guys
Oh,
have nothing to write about this offseason or
you know
something
what?
like that. Again, where he just thinks he's so holier than thou. Oh, I'm so about, don't even bother about speculating on something that can't happen. We're going nowhere. Dude, the fact that you have such job security when you have won 3 playoff games, 3 games in the playoffs in the last 3 years is scary. It's scary. We're going nowhere. Oof.
You're right. He's right, though. He ain't lying. The Islanders are going nowhere. It's not like he's lying. That's right. We're not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. Neither are the Islanders. They're the basement. They're the basement. Look at all the teams nipping at the Islanders' heels last year. Young teams. Teams that are getting better. Teams that are going to make moves in the offseason. We are so far away from being a playoff, a real contender. I'll tell you what. Matt Barzal is never going to win a Stanley Cup as long as he plays for this organization. That's how far we are away. Ilya Sorokin, Noah Dobson. None of them are winning Stanley Cups if they stay with the Islanders. No one is going to win a Stanley Cup who's on this roster who plays for the New York Islanders right now. No one. Not for the Islanders, they're not. Not happening.
Wow.
Just listening. Well, I'm not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. Why not? Why not? You think your job performance has been great? What did you do? What did you do in the offseason last year to make the team better? Tell me. What did you do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. Less than nothing. You did nothing last offseason.
He made sure they signed back Scott Mayfield to a 7-year deal. And he made sure they signed back Simeon Varlamov to a 4-year deal. And he made sure he signed back Pierre Engvall. That's what he did.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So nothing.
Let's go, Lou.
So in other words, absolutely nothing. You can, you know something? You can, what's the old saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool you twice, shame on me. Well, what happens when you fool Lou Lamoriello 4, 5, 6, 7 times by guys who don't even know, who cannot play, come in and have a career season or a 2-week stretch when they look good, and he signs them to 7-year deals? You know what? That's the epitome of failure. I mean, honestly, he's got, as long as he's there, this team will not win. Yeah. Period. Book it. Book it. I told you years ago, I'm not changing. For anyone to say, you should change your opinion. Why would I change my opinion? I'm always right. I'm never wrong. If I'm wrong, then, okay, you could say something. Tell me when I'm wrong. Tell me when I'm wrong. Years and years and years and years, everything I've said have come true about this team. Everything. You could see it from a mile away unless you're the old man. He can't see jack shit.
I will say it is scary, though, the fact that we're going to use this as a jumping off point. Well, hell,
it's the same team for a year and a half. It's the same team.
Lou Lamoriello, question for you. Did you happen to watch the team's performance last year under Lane Lambert in the second half of the season? Did you see how, right, we're winning a lot more games the tail end of the year, and we did that all without Matt Barzal. So I remember having to field from the lunatic Lamanites out there that, well, hey, if you look at how we played in the second half of the season without a Matt Barzal, look at our record. That second line is like a buzzsaw, one of the best second lines in hockey. Our first line, could you imagine what Matt Barzal and Bo Horvat are going to do? Oh, man, they're just going to tear through teams. Well, guess what? Guess what we learned? Well, even after a great second half of the performance last year and the season, it did not translate over into a fantastic year this year because we were in the same spot, scratching and clawing our way into a postseason spot by game 80 or 81 in the regular season. And guess what? You don't want to use, and you shouldn't use, well, hey, we look kind of good because we went on 2 6-game winning streaks in the second half of the year under Patrick Wall. That's going to result, I think, our team next year, we're going to have 120 points at this pace. Well, newsflash, guys. It's not going to happen.
85 points next year. 85. I'm calling.
It's not going to happen. And it's worrisome. Now, the things people are trying to draw points of positivity where they're saying, hey,
every other team going to die in a plane crash. It's the only shot we got. That's it.
No, not.
And I think half the AHL team would beat us.
No, it was.
You're right. You're right. It won't be half. It'll be all. Sorry.
What they're talking about, grumpy old man, is they're trying to construe a quote said by Lou Lamoriello that he's going to allow Patrick Waugh to have some say in the players and the player personnel decisions.
Yeah. Okay. Guess what that tells me? That's what Malkin and Ledecky told Patrick Waugh when they hired him. Because there's no way the old man lets anyone have any input on anything when it comes to the organization. He's the czar. So they told him, this is the way it is, Fossil. You don't like it? Don't let the door hit you in that wrinkly old ass on the way out.
Well, the way I construed that and understood it, and maybe I misread, it sounded like they were talking about his coaching personnel he'll have some say in on. And I'm like, why would he not have say on who the coaching personnel is? I mean, our power play was miserable in the second half of the season. Our penalty kill was the worst penalty killing unit in the NHL this year.
Worst in how many years? Like 30 years?
Awful. Our PK was awful. Yeah. So would I be shocked if Patrick Hall maybe had some input on who he's going to be coaching with? No, I wouldn't be shocked if they gave the head coach some input on that. There's not really much you can do at this point with the roster and the roster construction, but I do think it's terrifying that our general manager is still, we're going to use this great second half of the year push, and we're going to launch that into next year, and we're going to build off of that momentum. I'm sorry. The end result was the exact same. Did we, right? Except worse. It was a worse end result this year than last year. We had slightly more regular season points, but we lost to the Hurricanes in one less game.
Gentleman's sweep.
Yeah, exactly. We won in overtime of game 4, so we didn't get swept, and then they proceeded to beat us in game 5 on their home ice. And you and I disagree about how Carolina's playing. That is fine. I don't think they're playing at the level.
It's specials. The Rangers are winning the specials. That's what they're winning, is specials.
But you know what? It's funny. Do you know how many of the analytics crowd? Oh, look at his 5-on-5 play. Look at his metrics 5-on-5. I've seen from a lot of people after game 1 and game 2 saying Carolina's winning the 5-on-5 battle. Look at Carolina. They're playing great 5-on-5 hockey. But my point being is, for people who try to diminish the value of special teams performance, power play points, power play goals, power play assists, and killing penalties, this series right here is the reason why you cannot just say, how does the guy look 5-on-5? Because power play performance and special teams performances are immensely important come postseason time. The Hurricanes are 0 for 16 on the power play this year, or this series against the Rangers.
5 for 15 against the Islanders, right? But here's the thing. Okay, 5-on-5 does matter. And as you get, but the whole thing is when you're in the playoffs.
Both matter.
Okay, but the whole thing, when you're in the playoffs, the teams, as you go further, all the teams are pretty good 5-on-5. It's specials that make a difference, and goaltending. That's why Carolina's losing to the Rangers. Freddie Anderson can't stop a puck from distance. He can't cover anything at his feet ever. He did the same thing against the Islanders. How many goals did the Islanders score in that series? 4 of them were ones that he could not corral right at his feet. I mean, it's a problem for him. Shesterkin is just so much better. It's not even close. And the power play and the penalty kill. That's the difference in that series. If we had played the Rangers in the first round, it would have been very, very similar, except maybe if we gave them 15 power play chances, they would have had 13 goals.
I was about to say 7 at least.
I'll say 13. I'd say 13.
It's the reason why I'm very happy. People are like, oh no, we match up different against the Rangers than we do the Hurricanes.
Yeah, that's horseshit. Because guess what? Look at how the Rangers have upped their play. They've upped their play come playoff time. When they're President's Trophy winners for a reason. Do I think the Rangers are the greatest team on the planet? I do not.
No.
But here's the thing: they're by far better than the New York Islanders, by far. Washington showed more determination and grit against the Rangers than we ever did. And Freddie Anderson just lets in his 3rd goal. He blows. They're going to get swept tonight. Carolina's going to get swept tonight. And then how do you like that, Islander fans? You got beat by a team that got swept in the next round. Talk about how far you have to go.
These Stanley Cup, these Carolina Hurricanes are real Stanley Cup contenders, Grumpy. Well, that's the type of narrative they tried to peddle. That there's no shame in losing to the contender or the favorite to win the Stanley Cup. Well, here's the reality of it.
Oh my God.
The Hurricanes were not the favorite to win the Stanley Cup. They played well down the stretch, and guess what? They have issues. They do not perform well enough in the postseason. Simple as that. They're missing key components to make themselves a real contender, just like many teams are. But think about that. Even though they're missing pieces, they still beat us in 5 games handily, and they're getting swept probably tonight by the Rangers.
Absolutely. Freddie Anderson just let in a goal from behind the net. I don't know how it was almost impossible to do it. He did. He's terrible. He's terrible.
And they scored 3 goals in the first period, and now have given up a 3-goal lead.
No, it was 2-1, 2-0, 3-1, and now it's 3-3.
Okay. But they've given up a big lead. Nonetheless, they've given up a 2-goal lead.
It's all because of the goaltender. The goaltender's been horrible. Absolutely horrible. You can't give up shots. Wrist shots from the blue line cannot beat you.
Think about that. We were not able to exploit and take advantage of a goalie who's been absolutely exploited in this series. Rangers.
We did. The same way the Rangers have. Any puck that's at his feet, if you're aggressive enough and you want it bad enough, you're going to be able to knock that in on him. The Rangers did. Islanders weren't capable of it.
That's why I said we did not exploit that enough against them, is what I said.
Well, we scored 4 goals in our series the same way. Just we couldn't stop Carolina.
The Rangers are dominating Carolina. Dominating them. Simple as that. Anyway, so it's disheartening to hear a general manager say, we're going to use the great push we saw in the second half of the season to catapult us into next year as a jumping start to next year.
I don't know how anyone would renew their season ticket subscriptions. I honestly, if I had season ticket, no, don't even bother calling me till the old man is gone. No shot. No shot. No shot. No shot. If you're happy, just scuffle around. I can't even think of a team in any sport that is like the Islanders are, where they don't try to get better and they just scuffle around. Sometimes they make the playoffs, they get knocked off in the first round, or they don't make it one year. Maybe the Indianapolis Colts. Maybe we're the Indianapolis Colts of the NHL.
The Indianapolis Colts had some good years.
That was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. Peyton Manning's been gone a long time.
Well, we would need the Indianapolis. I mean, think about it. That was the early to middle of the 2000s. We haven't had those years since the 80s.
I'm just saying, if you look at the Indianapolis Colts now,
okay,
they might squeak into the playoffs every once in a while and get beat in the first round.
At least Indianapolis thinks maybe they have a quarterback and a guy like Anthony Richardson. What type of young talent do you think on this team, besides maybe Noah Dobson, do you say this is a guy who has true upside? I'm not saying that with Simon Holmstrom.
Well, Lou Lamoriello looks at it this way. Oh, Anders Lee's only 34 years old. I'm 82. He's young. He just doesn't realize when it comes to, hockey, the guy's finished.
Well, the thing I'll say, kind of talking a little bit about, okay, what is the route forward from this point, right? It's something we've given updates on before in the past. The route forward now is awful. It is like, what it is you have gangrene and you've got to cut a limb off at this point. That's where we are with the route forward, because we've been talking about the route forward for 3+ years now. We talked about it. The year the Islanders finished 16 points out of a playoff spot, I believe that was the 2021-2022 season. We talked at that point, the Islanders needed to trade away all tradable assets. And what was that? Those are pieces like Kyle Clutterbuck before he broke his wrist that season. We were talking about trading away pieces like, hey, guys like Chara. Every single person that was on an expiring deal needed to be dealt and traded. We didn't do that.
They should have been doing that the last 3 years.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We've been talking about what was the route forward. We should have been trading away pieces on expiring deals instead of just signing back the same cast and crew. We've been talking about this 3 years ago. We've been talking every single year. Well, hey, maybe if we make a few moves at this deadline, we could sell off a few pieces and we can still salvage somewhat of the redirection that we need. But every single year, we continue to sign back the same players and not trade any expiring deals, but we give them extensions.
Mike Riley's going to be the newest one. He's getting an extension.
Yes, Mike Riley will get an extension. A guy who's been waived twice. Guess what? He had a good little spurt with us, and he's inept in the defensive zone. But hey, he's going to get an extension.
And here's the thing. What should he get? All right, you know what? Mike Riley showed enough offensively where I'd offer him 1 year, 1.1.
I could see maybe 2 years.
No. 1 year, 1.1 million. Prove it to me again. 1 year, 1.1. If somebody offers you 1.2, See you later. Goodbye. There's a million of bottom six defensemen out there. There just are. You don't need to re-sign another bottom six defenseman to a 7-year extension. You don't need to do it. Sorry. Just stop. And here's the thing. You want to know why nothing ever changes? Because the older you get, the less and less you like change. This guy doesn't change anything. Everything's the same. The path going forward is move the old man out. Until that happens, nothing will change. Nothing.
That is because what we would suggest and what are going to happen are going to be two very different things. The item that has to be done, the first step forward, is firing Lou Lamoriello. That is, and here's the thing: they're never going to fire Lou Lamoriello. Never, ever, ever. If it was even, we've talked about, okay, how do you get him out? Well, you bring in a young GM, a young assistant general manager who would learn under the wings of Lou Lamoriello for a year, and then
whatever Lamoriello says you should do, you do the opposite.
He would usurp Lou Lamoriello at the end of a season, but we haven't even done that. So the likelihood that any of this happens is
zero
to none. It's nothing. It's none.
Zero.
But again, to provide the solutions of what they should be doing, to go on record, right? So we could look at this 3 years from now and say, oh yeah, they were right about that one too. It is clear as day what the Islanders should be doing. Lou Lamoriello should be taken out of his control of the general manager spot. Simple as that. If you have a general manager who we've had 3 years where we've had failure, after a team who was Stanley Cup or bust, we've failed miserably with 3 postseason wins in 3 seasons. If you have a general manager who will not even entertain last year, would not even entertain the possibility of trading away
a backup
veteran backup goalie on an expiring deal, he would not even entertain that. He wouldn't even entertain
Where's that coming from?
He wouldn't even entertain that as a possibility. You have a problem with your general manager. If after 3 years of failure, postseason failure, right? The watermark was, hey, we're making Eastern Conference Finals. Things were good.
Stanley Cup or bust. Stanley Cup or bust. You don't make the playoffs. Everybody's got to go.
And here's the thing, right? Like Carolina. What do you think Carolina is going to do if they get swept by the Rangers? Do you think they're just going to say, hey, everything's hunky-dory, even though we've made the postseason the last 6 years in a row? That's better than the Islanders have. And they didn't make the postseason before Rob Brendamore came there. They didn't make the postseason the prior 9 years. You think they're just going to say, hey, everything's hunky-dory, even though they're making some Eastern Conference Finals. We're fine. They're winning a few playoff series, but they're not doing anything. Do you think they're just going to let everything remain status quo? No. The answer to that's no. There's going to be change in Carolina because Carolina is serious about trying to win a cup, and there should be change. Carolina having the same lackluster result and disappointing result in the postseason year after year, it requires that there's going to be change. Our GM won't do that, and that's the problem. When our GM won't even consider possibly, we have a cast and crew that's kind of old. We have guys like Brock Nelson coming up on an expiring deal. We have guys like Kyle Palmieri coming up on an expiring deal. What are you going to let him do? Are you going to let him walk at the end of their contract this season? Are you going to offer him a contract extension to 33 and 32-year-old forwards?
Absolutely.
Is that what you're going to do? If you're with lackluster result after lackluster result, you're going to be signing back 32 and 33-year-old forwards in your top 6 to extended deals without considering a rebuild. That's a problem. Unless you're so vehemently on one side, unwilling to consider the possibility of what a rebuild could do for us, you cannot be the general manager. Simple. Can't be it. That's the first step. Firing Lou Lamoriello as the GM. Even if this year they brought in a young assistant general manager to say, this is our plan, is to phase out Lou Lamoriello, at least we would have that.
Patrick Waugh is the next GM. I'm telling you, Patrick Waugh is going to be the next GM.
I hope you're right.
He absolutely will. But you know what? I don't know how much I believe in him either. Some of the decisions he made down the stretch, no. Don't want to alienate your number one goalie. That's a huge mistake. A guy who's going to be here for the next 8 years. He's got a no-move contract. He's going nowhere. You want to alienate him and go with the backup? How'd the backup look in the playoff series? He looked like what he is, a backup. He's a backup. Now, was Sorokin great this year? No, they ran him to the ground earlier. He was out of juice at the end. But here's the thing. Varley was a backup, and he got exposed in the playoffs, like he does every time he goes to the playoffs. He gets exposed, giving up first shot goals every game. That's a Varley special. How many times did he do it last series? 2?
Half
He is
of
what
the
he
games,
is.
two of the 4 games he played in, he gave up a goal on the very first shot. That's pretty good. Hold on. Hey, it reminds you of when we played him against the Boston Bruins many eons, when we made an Eastern Conference Finals run, when he gave up goals on multiple first shot or the second shot attempt in the first few minutes of every game. It's tough to win playoff games when you start off at down 1-0 every single opportunity you play. It's just really tough to win games like that. Yeah, so it has to start with getting rid of Lou Lamoriello. That is the number one item involved in transforming the team and taking them in a different direction. This current direction, as we've discussed last show and this show, the current direction is not good enough to win a Stanley Cup. People think that, hey, if you're just in the postseason in a proximity of in a postseason spot and you're near the cup, well, all you need is a lot of experience and more chances. And then everybody, it's almost like they think it's roulette. Anybody who gets in the playoffs has an equal chance of winning the Stanley Cup. But you're going to realize really quickly, no, it's not. What a shock. The President's Trophy winners. Oh, wow. What a shock on them. They're doing pretty well in this postseason. Wow, they may go 8-0 in their first 8 games. The Florida Panthers, who made a lot of deadline acquisitions, who are really good. Well, guess what? They look like they're going to be probably moving on past Boston, just in cruise control at this point.
Absolutely, they're going to blow Boston out.
Yeah. And guess what? Colorado and Dallas. Well, those are the top two teams in that division. Guess what? They're going to be they're in a slugfest right now.
Actually, Colorado was number 3 in that division, but I think they were 1 point behind Winnipeg. They were all like here.
Yes. But here's the thing. I didn't care that Winnipeg was not better than Colorado. I don't care what it said at the standings at the end of the season. Colorado is a much better team than Winnipeg.
Colorado's problem and will be their problem is Georgiev and goal.
Yes, Georgiev. Yes, not a good enough goalie. But here's the thing: their offense is so good to where they make these huge comebacks at end of games because they just have so much offensive firepower. A lot of first ballot Hall of Fame caliber players on that team. And you look at it right in the other division, you have the Vancouver Canucks against the Edmonton Oilers. If Vancouver Canucks weren't playing Slovis and they were playing Thatcher Demko, maybe it's a 2-0 series for Vancouver.
Absolutely.
Right? But right now it's 1-1. And Edmonton at 1-1, and it's going back to Edmonton there to play games 3 and 4.
Okay, Edmonton is going nowhere. They don't play any defense, and Skinner sucks in goal. So,
yes, yep.
So they're going nowhere. And here's the thing: those games are fun to watch. Absolutely fun to watch.
Yeah.
But you want to know what? At the end of the day, neither one of those teams will win the cup. And I think Rick Tocchet has done a great job with Vancouver. But guess what? They're a young team who doesn't know what it's like to be in the playoffs. First time in quite a while.
This is their first. I was about to say, you don't go from we don't make the playoffs to, hey, we won a Stanley Cup. I mean, right. Usually it's just not that. It's not done that way. They're going to have to get a little bit of experience. They're going to have to learn what it's like to win. They're going to have to learn what it's like to close out games. And again, it's different if they have their starting goalie healthy. But guess what? Injuries happen in the postseason. Simple as that. So yes, it's not just like, hey, it's like you're going and clicking on a random draw and everybody has the same probability once you make the postseason. Washington had nowhere near the same probability to win a Stanley Cup as a team like Colorado did, or the Rangers do, or the Florida Panthers do. And it was the same for the Islanders. Just because you make the postseason doesn't mean you have as equal of a chance of every other team. We do not have a high probability of winning a Stanley Cup at this point.
There was 1 3 seed that made the second round of the playoffs. Everyone else was a first or a second seed. That's because guess what? They're the best team. I think the NHL has become more top and bottom than it's been in a long time. Why? Because the general managers on other teams are smart enough to lock up their young talent early. So when you get to free agency now, you have a lot of warts if you're making it to free agent. It means your team really didn't want you. Okay. You got guys who are 30 years old, wanting big deals. Bo Horvat was one. Vancouver said, no, you're not worth that money. We think you're worth 5.5. And we think you're worth $5.5 million a year, maybe 6. And he said he wasn't going to sign for that. They moved him on. All of a sudden, Vancouver turns around when he's gone. I'm not saying it's because Bo Horvat is gone, but not having that over your head, maybe it takes some of the bad mojo that's going on in the locker room, takes that away as well.
They were a team, Vancouver, who always had a lot of pieces, never had the right coach. Rick Tocchet is absolutely the right coach for them. And guess what? They traded Bo Horvat, which is a position they had duplicates of. They didn't need more offensive firepower. They needed another guy from the back end to add a little bit more to the back end, and that was Filip Hronek. And guess what? That's why they were much more successful. They traded essentially Bo Horvat for Hronek, and it helped the team out, and they brought on the new head coach. And that's a young team. You look at the top producers of that team are young, up-and-coming players. They've got it mixed in with some old, wily vets as well, but they also have a lot of young talent that's coming up.
Dakota Johnson. Dakota Johnson has been a real revelation for them this year down the stretch. He's played really, really young. He's a young guy too. No one expected him to do anything.
Oh, but yes, they've got a lot of contributions by young guys. And so, right? Moving away from Lou Lamoriello. And guess what? How it starts. You are shopping guys like Brock Nelson, guys like Kyle Palmieri. That's what you start to do. They're under no circumstance, Pageau, under no circumstance this year are you to extend Brock Nelson or Kyle Palmieri if you were Lou Lamoriello. Because guess what? He's not going to give Kyle Palmieri and Brock Nelson a 2-year extension. He's going to be giving them 4 to 6 year extensions. Or what are you going to do? You're going to let him walk? Well, Lou doesn't let guys walk like that either. He doesn't trade those players on expiring deals. He just signs them all back. It's what he's done with every fucking player on this team that's on an expiring deal that's not 39 years old named Zach Parise. He signs them all back.
It's funny because one thing that Lamoriello said in his postseason presser, he goes, "We love loyalty, but it can't impede progress." Well, I'm going to tell you what. That's all he's ever done is reward loyalty, and it has absolutely impeded progress. So I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe he's forgotten all the stupid deals he's made and idiotic signings, signing Scott Mayfield to a 7-year extension or Pierre Engvall. And I'll still say it. I'll say it now. I've said it 100 times before. When that signing was announced, he had a grin from ear to ear. He was like, "Man, I hope I can get a 2-year deal somewhere." 7? His wife's like, "Woohoo! You're getting some tonight, Pierre." I know that's how that went.
Oh God,
they love playing. I know everyone loves playing for the Islanders, old veterans, because it's like they play in the beer league. They're part of this cul-de-sac crew. They don't have to achieve anything. Well, we'll play. We'll try hard a couple of weeks just until just because it comes up on trade deadline day. Then we're going to play our best. And maybe we'll give it our roll down the stretch and squeak into a playoff spot. That's it.
You don't have to worry about legitimate competition. What young up-and-coming players do they have to worry about potentially losing a spot to? The general manager trades away all the draft picks, so it's not like you have those young up-and-comers. Hey, we have to worry about our 5th-round pick, Matthew Maggia, first season in the AHL. Ooh, we've got to worry about DeFore. Oh, look at that. Uh-oh. Last year's flavor of the month, William DeFore, has kind of fizzled out. What a shock. It happens. It happens. That's why you need a lot of those kicks at the can. You need more, right? Because the likelihood that these players go right from where they are and they live up to their potential, it's not always likely. You're going to have some guys who look like can't miss guys that are misses. That's just how that works. You don't know which ones will and which ones won't. It's that simple.
When you have the worst farm system in the league and your roster, it's not like Buffalo. Buffalo could have the worst farm system in the league. It doesn't matter because all their young players are up right now. Now, Buffalo just happens to have the highest rated farm system in the league. Islanders dead last with the majority of their players over the age of 30. If you can't see, if you cannot acknowledge that and what it means going forward, I can't help you. You have to admit you have a problem, Islander fans, if you think this is good enough. You're almost like an alcoholic. You got to admit that you have a problem before you can change.
It's like a battered fan syndrome because we can pour for so long and the fan and the ownership. I'm not going to actually take credit. That was Tony Cheese who sent that to me. And I thought it was I thought Tony Cheese, I was like, ooh, that is very, very catchy. Battered fan syndrome.
BFS.
Yes, because we've been so accustomed and used to utter failure that making the postseason is like, well, that's okay. Do you think Boston fans, the Bruin fans are like, hey, if we lose to Florida, this is a successful year, guys. We won a round of the playoffs. I could tell you one thing. If the Islanders won one round of the playoffs and got swept or got manhandled by the Rangers, there would be fans out there celebrating that, thinking it was a real success. But in reality, it's not. Okay. So it starts with not re-signing guys like Brock Nelson, guys like Kyle Palmieri, trading guys like that before the season, at the deadline, doesn't matter. At no circumstance are you to give a guy like that a 4 or a 5 or 6 year extension. Cannot happen. Lou Lamoriello, I truly fear, would do something like that. Right? How else do you do this? Lock Noah Dobson up long term. I think that's a guy who has shown improved 50-plus point season, 49-point season, 70 however many point season. That guy is most points to the defenseman by the Islanders since Dennis Potvin. Simple as that. I'm not calling him Dennis Potvin, but his performance at the age of 24 years old has been substantial, and that's a guy who needs to be extended for the long term, an 8-year contract. So you have him from the time period that he's 24 years old all the way until he's at 32. So you get him throughout his entire prime. That's what you should be doing. That's a guy you must sign back at all costs. If it's a $10 million a year deal, man, wouldn't that just be nice? For the feather in my cap. But yes, it doesn't matter. He's a guy who, if within reason, you have to sign him back long term to an 8-year contract.
He's not getting 10 years. 10 million. He's not getting 10 million.
Maybe, I don't know.
Staples' article was really good, and you could tell. It seems like to me,
Staple doesn't want to wife for the Islanders anymore.
Absolutely. And just reading this, it's just it's sections called the double-edged sword of loyalty. He says, the realization may have come a bit too late for the Islanders and their GM, who's rewarded his loyal veterans with contracts that now mostly look ugly. We knew it at the time. We talked about it at the time.
We were telling us every single show, why are you guys upset? Look at the results. We're okay. Everything's all right. This one year was COVID, and we didn't have enough players, and we had to suit an AHL team. So that's why we missed the postseason by 16 points. Anyway, go ahead, Grumpy. I'm sorry.
He says, that's a byproduct of having a successful run. However, in the Islanders' case, success hasn't meant Stanley Cup championships or even final appearances, because they've never won anything. When the Lightning struggle to maneuver with bad contracts, they can look at their 2 cup rings and feel some satisfaction. For the Islanders, coming close to a pair of finals doesn't feel sufficient for the term and cap constraints they feel now. Lee finished strong after a difficult season, but he'll be 34 in July with 2 years left at an unmovable $7 million cap hit. Yeah. Pelican Pulak were the signature defense pair on the defense first team for several of these seasons, and Lamoriello gave them both 8-year deals. Pelicans missed 21 and 24 games the last 2 years, and Pulak missed 24. The Islanders very much need to progress to adapt to the more of a 2024 NHL. Their contracts, however appropriate for services rendered, aren't going to allow them to progress much. And given that those 3 players mentioned all have full no-trade clauses, plus 6 other regulars with full or partial no trades, progress may be even further off. That is exactly what we've been saying. Now, Arthur Staple has a solution. I don't think it's going to happen. Do we want to talk about our solution, or do we want to talk about Staples?
I want to talk about our solution, Grumpy. Just mention what Staples' solution was quickly.
Lamoriello has only jettisoned Josh Bailey from the Islanders' core the last couple of seasons, and that may have been easier than the current dilemma since Bailey.
You recap it instead of reading it all. What?
No, I'm going to read it because I'm going.
I don't want you reading the article. It's behind a paywall, so I don't want you just reading an entire article, Grumpy. So.
I'm not reading the whole article. Okay. Long story short,
yes, that's what
Lamoriello is probably going to have to move out a player he wanted long term, either through a buyout. Talking about Lee, which we've talked about before. Lee's deal is likely the most attractive for a buyout, or asking a player to waive a no-trade clause. Those are disruptive decisions, not to be taken lightly, but they may be what's best for the team in the future.
Oh, God. Yeah. Oh, my God.
I mean, we've been talking about this for years, that the chickens are coming home to roost, Bobby Boucher.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We've always said, right, the fall from grace is hard and fast.
You say that.
Okay, Gotcha.
Because it's not been hard and fast. It's been a gradual decline.
It's been hard and fast.
It's not hard and fast.
It's hard and fast.
That's from going for third best team in the league to 32nd. We're not that. This is our trajectory. Steady down. Just
we're about to really start picking up speed on that downward trajectory, Grumpy. So don't you worry. It's going to be hard and fast. Anyway, you have to start trading away pieces in order to go ahead and receive draft picks back. That's the spot we're in right now, right? We are in a spot to where we need to go full on rebuild. Oh, well, all you need is a retool. Oh, well, all you need is this. You have so many good players that are in their prime. Well, here's the problem. Your general manager over the last 3 and 4 seasons has been tying us to long-term contracts for players that are old and past their peak. What are you going to do? Just say, here you go. Here's a whole bunch of players that are bad contracts long-term with modified or full no trade clauses. Please go ahead and take these off and give us assets back in return. And we're just going to go ahead and sign a whole bunch of fantastic free agents when we offload these pieces. No, it's just not realistic. Anders Lee, right? He's probably going to be here for the majority, if not the entirety of his contract.
Absolutely. Right? They're not moving anyone. They're not moving anyone. But, and, here's the thing. Arthur Staple, he must listen to our show because everything that we just talked about and have talked about ad nauseum, talking about the retool, no on-the-fly retool the last 2 years, where they could have Scott Mayfield, Brock Nelson, Kyle Palmieri, J.G. Pajot, other teams would have at minimum explored options on, but he just doesn't do it. I mean,
it's going to
Lamoriello declined to even hold talks on any of those players.
Yeah, so
league sources told him that multiple teams acquired about Mayfield at the 2023 deadline. Think about that. Jake McCabe was the centerpiece of a package that landed a conditional first-round pick and a future second-rounder. Luke Shen, older and less reliable than Mayfield, went for a third-rounder. The Islanders could have easily gotten a prized asset or several assets for Mayfield, but they held on to him, made the playoffs, and lost in 6 games. This is exactly what we've been saying for years. Years.
Gotcha.
The same things.
Yeah, and again, he's a third party now. He has to cover the Islanders because Kurtz left, and they had nobody to cover the Islanders. So they said, here you go, Arthur Staple, please go ahead and cover the Islanders as well.
But he's done kissing their ass, though.
Because he's not dependent upon them. He just has to go ahead and write because that's what the assignment he's been placed. He doesn't want to cover the Islanders. Think about that, right? Like, why do we have to go full rebuild? Well, because we got a lot of bad contracts for the older players. And the other thing is, our general manager has been trading away first-round pick after first-round pick and multiple draft picks to where we have one of, if not the worst farm system in the NHL. It would be different if we had a better farm system. It would be different if we had a few first-round picks and guys who are like, oh, this guy, oh, Rucker McGrody may be panning out. Oh, Jonathan Lettermacky may be panning out. Oh, it'd be different if you had some of these young players that look like they were budding into a potential top 6 guy. We don't have any of those. So the only route forward when you have the worst farm system in the NHL or one of the worst farm systems in the NHL and a lot of bad contracts to old players is going to blow up the team. That's it. Look at the San Jose Sharks. They were better than we were, right? You talk about their pinnacle. Their pinnacle was higher than our pinnacle. They started signing back a whole bunch of old players to long-term deals. Oh, they had guys like Erik Karlsson. He may be a Hall of Famer. Oh, Brett Burns is fantastic. Mark Eduardo Vlasic. Oh, they had young players like Thomas Hertl and Logan Couture and Timo Meier. Well, guess what? They continue to trade away first-round pick after first-round pick. The guys got old. And they
didn't trade away as many first-round picks as the Islanders did.
I know, but they were, though. Look, it just proves the point that it is going to be even worse for us. It will.
Well, they at least made a Stanley Cup Finals.
That's my point. Their pinnacle was higher than ours. They did the same, signing back a whole bunch of age veterans. They had a few guys in their peak. Hey, Timo Meier was still in the hot spot. Same thing with Thomas Hertl. Same thing with Logan Couture. Those guys were still performing. Don't be confused and think that they weren't. They didn't say, oh, because we had guys like that performing, we can't possibly rebuild. No. Guess what? The team wasn't good enough. They launched a full-on rebuild, and guess what? I'd rather be the San Jose Sharks right now than the New York Islanders. San Jose Sharks just won the draft lottery, too. I'd rather be the San Jose Sharks right now than the Islanders because guess what? Do all rebuilds work? No, absolutely they do not. But you could say this, when the rebuild does work, it usually results in a Stanley Cup. That's simple.
It's funny because, here's the thing. Staple has contacts. We don't. They talked about this trade deadline. The only guys that Lamoriello, he said, would even consider talking about were Clutterbuck or Martin. Teams were asking about Pajot, and they were told the Islanders were not going to move him. He's 33 years old. He's 33 years old. Well, what? No, maybe he's 31. But I mean, what do you have? 33 points, making $5 million a year as a third line center, and you're not even consider moving somebody like that? And how did that end up this season for us? Out in 4, out in 5, should have been out in 4. I mean, a gentleman's sweep. Not even close to as good as Carolina. That series was a blowout from the time the first puck was dropped. That series was over. Matter of fact, it was over when the Islanders qualified for third in the Metro.
So, do you have anything else you want to say about Raft Forward then, Grump? And because I feel like you want to keep talking about the Arthur Staple article, and that's fine.
Well, here's the thing. All the things that we've said in the past is what he's saying now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here, okay. I'm gonna let you know. In your frozen, so you may want to try to refresh your face on the screen there. But yeah, it's. I'll be honest with you. I feel like most third parties notice. Oh no, you're back, Grumpy. You're good. You're good. Ah, well, maybe not. I don't know. Just refresh it, Grumpy. But yeah, I feel like most third parties realize this, and the only people who don't are the people who are attached and close to the situation, which are the Islanders, Islander fans. That's those are the people who don't really realize it. All righty. I think Grumpy's maybe restarting it. That's fine. But yes, it's discouraging again to hear our general manager say, we're going to use this as a jumping off point here for next year. That's obvious that is going to result in more pain and misery. If we were to sign back guys like Brock Nelson, like Kyle Palmieri, who are on expiring deals to long-term contracts, that's going to be bad. We already saw Brock Nelson's play drop off at the tail end of this year. I know he had more points under Patrick Waugh than he did under Lane Lambert. I thought his play was noticeably less, and I think he was noticeably disinterested on the ice at times. I didn't like what I saw from Brock Nelson. Simple as that. I like Brock Nelson. I think he played very poorly at the tail end of this year. Kyle Palmieri played very well, right? What do we always say? If a guy's playing his greatest, he's going to have his highest value. That's the time to trade him. You don't wait until he struggles or until he has a big issue and he comes out flat to start the season and you sell him at a lower point. You sell him when he's performing at his best, when people have a rosy memory of, hey, Kyle Palmieri helped this team make the postseason. That's somebody that we need in our locker room. So that's a guy that I think we should entertain selling at, I'd say even before the deadline. I think we should entertain selling him this year in the offseason. And offer him to teams the same way you would Brock Nelson by saying, we're going to eat half the cap hit to increase the value of him so you get more back in return. We have got to start improving our prospect pool. It is miserable at this point, and we need to improve it. The longer we continue to neglect the prospect pool and worry about the issues tomorrow, the issues continue to grow and grow and grow. And then you're going to get to a point to where the entire fan base is going to check out. I love also, I'll mention this, the people who are, oh, a rebuild's just not realistic. No owner would ever sign up for a rebuild. No owner who just went ahead and built this stadium, Belmont Arena, with UBS, would ever go ahead and sign up for a rebuild. Again, I've never had anybody ever answer this question. Never, ever, ever. If you're in a spot to where you care legitimately about the long-term success of your team, right? You own the team. You care about what the revenue looks like 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 6 years from now, 7 years from now. You care about the long-term revenue if you are interested in the team that you own long-term. If you don't care about them long-term, then you only care about the short-term and you're planning on selling them anyway. So I'd love for anybody to be able to explain me from a business standpoint how an owner who spends hundreds of millions of dollars is only concerned about the profit and revenue for years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but not 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They're concerned about the long-term profitability of the organization, of the business, not just years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But Grumpy, I think this is a good point here for us to go ahead and jump into our ad read and then start jumping through some of these comments there, Grump.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to say, there's supposedly like a Mitch Marner thing out there. I don't know if anyone in the comments has brought it up.
Sure.
But if they do, I'm astounded that there's a segment of the Islander fan base who would not take Mitch Marner on this team. I'm astounded, honestly.
People are trying to find,
if you're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs, at least be entertaining in the regular season. Let me just put it to you that way.
People are trying to find ways to where they could say, "Oh, how can we get rid of Sorokin before his no trade or his no move clause sets in?" I'm gonna be honest with you, kind of tough to do that at this point. You're paying him almost $8.5 million a year right now for the next 8 years. And he's coming off of the worst season he's ever had as a professional in the NHL. Why on God's green earth would you want to go ahead and sell a guy who just had the worst year of his career before he locks into a monster contract? You are going to get minimum return, if any. It's foolish. It's foolish.
I still think he's got a lot of value around the league. They're not moving him. That would mean the old man would actually have to make a hockey trade. Remember when he said he was going to make hockey trades? He never does.
I will say, do you remember when they were talking about, hey, we got to do some thinking. We got to do some figuring out this offseason. You remember that last year? Hey, there's some questions that have to be answered. Remember what those questions resulted in? He just hoped that everybody forgot about his statements he said, and they started watching MLB and started getting into the NFL by the time the NHL season rolled around. He said, okay, everybody forgot about that, and we could just go back to status quo.
The only way to get through to Islanders management is to stop spending money on the team. That gets their attention double quick. No one go to the games. No one buy any of their shit. No one buy any concessions. Just don't go. That gets ownership's attention. It really does.
So to give an update, the Hurricanes did win 4-3. So maybe you're looking at potentially a gentleman's sweep before the Rangers head back on home ice. So it was not a sweep like maybe we had anticipated, but maybe a gentleman's sweep perhaps. Do I think the Hurricanes come back from a down 3-0 in the series? There's only been, 3 or 4 teams in the history of the NHL that's ever done that?
Yeah, it's not happening. Here's the thing. Okay, you realize in the 4 games, there's now a 2-goal difference. The Rangers won the first 3 games by a goal. Carolina wins the 4th one by a goal. And it's going back to MSG. That's the next game's in MSG.
Yeah, and the Rangers will win probably in all likelihood.
You know what? Those games are all toss-ups. It comes down to the goaltender.
You want to be so right on that. You're just wrong.
I'm just saying
is not
those games are toss-ups. I'm not saying Carolina's winning. All I'm saying is that those games are all these games have been toss-ups, all of them.
Oh, stop.
Neither team has dominated the other. The big difference is the special teams of the Rangers. That's been the one, and Shesterkin. Other than that, these games are all toss-ups. And that's the first time Shesterkin has given up more than 3 goals in 31 playoff games. Think about that.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't watch. It wasn't like he was peppered by shots today, so I couldn't tell you how he played. I mean, we've been doing this. But again, like it's another one of these things. Okay, so the Carolina Hurricanes scored a power play goal. That's what it was. They were given a power play. Wow, only 3 power plays given out today, and Carolina got a power play goal finally. So that's the reason why they play. So they well, I'll tell you that benefits Carolina. Right? If there's no power plays called in the other direction, power plays and special team opportunities obviously are big in favor of the Rangers at this point. So the Hurricanes power play is 1 for 17 against the Rangers. So not good, just to give the updates here. But we'll go ahead and jump into Rad and Grumpy, and you're going to start reading some comments here. But today's podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. The chase for the Stanley Cup is on. And if you're looking to light the lamp, nothing beats the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. From the start of the playoff beards all the way to hoisting the cup, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with same-game parlays, live betting, odds boost, and so much more. You've heard us talk about the same-game parlays, right? You could say, hey, in this afternoon or this evening game, I'm predicting Cale Makar has an assist. I'm predicting Grubauer produces there a shutout. I'm predicting you can go ahead and add a whole bunch of these same game parlays up to get an even bigger payout. But download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN. New customers can bet $5 or get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Again, that's promo code THPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.100gambler.net. And New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. And Connecticut, help is available if you have a gambling problem. If you call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of the Boot Hill Casino and Resort, you must be 21 years or older, but age varies by jurisdiction. It's void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 160 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/ICE for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources.
Nice job on the ad read.
All righty, Grumpy. We got here a comment from Frank K.
I know you guys like Brenda Moore, but how good is he really? Well, he's the only coach in NHL history to make playoffs his first 6 years of his career and win a playoff round. So he's pretty good. He doesn't deserve to be the highest paid coach like he wants to be. His team chokes when approached by a team that isn't scared of them. He's 0-8 in the Eastern Conference Final, going to lose to the Rangers once again. Like I said, we've already talked about what Carolina needs. They're not a perfect team at this point in time.
I will say this. I don't think us as Islander fans necessarily give the Rangers the credit they deserve.
That's fair.
They won the President's Trophy, Grumpy. They're in a spot to where I think they're playing well. They dominated Washington. I think they're better against Carolina than probably what you think and most people think. And it's in a situation too to where I think that we don't give them the probably the proper credit that they deserve, and it's just that simple. Freedom Front Adventure, though, Grump.
Well, TJ, the socialite is finally done with his parties and getting back to work. These two certainly didn't hurt their father's work ethic. That's for certain.
Don't even start, Crump. Don't you even start. Yeah. I'll tell you this. Oh, here you go. I got a comment there from George P.
Watch Brock get 7 years in a no trade clause. He's going to get. You watch. It would not stun me at all if they re-sign him this offseason.
I could see him getting a 6-year contract.
I can't. I'll stop rooting for the team. Honestly, this show will be over.
They gave 32-year-old Casey Cizikas a 6-year contract. Do you think it would be out of the question? Or how old was Casey when he got the contract? 30? How old was Casey Cizikas? A fourth liner at that point. How old was
30?
he?
30.
He got a 6-year contract, so he was signed under the contract for till he's 36. Still, he'll be under contract.
I honestly, I can't. I'm like, I'm done. I'm checking out.
JP.
Good evening, John. Maybe that's what they want, because they certainly don't like anyone speaking bad about them. The whole organization, bunch of chicken shit bastards. So they are what they are. JP says, good evening, gentlemen and audience. I hear the Property Brothers are expecting Lou to head hockey ops from the grave. Paul Bearer needs to replace Sparky the Dragon at UBS.
Oh, God. Oof. I tell you,
he served his purpose. It's done. It's done.
Yep. He did great. He did great things for us early on, but it doesn't mean you have a lifetime appointment just because you've done something good at one point for the Islanders in the organization.
He thinks he's the Pope. He thinks he's the Pope. Freedom Front Adventure goes, I think Arthur Stable is a bit of a douche, but his article on the Islanders summer insightful. Turned down player for Wally, wouldn't listen to offers for Pajot, only Clutterbuck and Martin have the conversation.
Exactly. How do you know what the offer is if you're not even willing to entertain? Maybe somebody's willing to say, hey, for Jean-Gabriel Pajot, we're willing to give you a first and a second. The same thing you paid for Jean-Gabriel Pajot, except now he's 31, however old he is at this point, and at diminished returns. We're willing to give you a first and a second. Didn't even bother to listen. How do you know? George P.
Starting a GoFundMe page for TJ. The goal is to buy a watch or a clock that works.
Yeah. I'm not sure it helps too much there, but I appreciate it, George. Scott Levy.
You think Wow will hire his own coaches this offseason, which means McLean and Huda are the most likely gone? Yes, I do.
Yeah. Yep, I think so.
It doesn't matter, though. The same players are going to be there.
Freedom for the Adventure.
TJ, Grumpy is ornery because he knows tomorrow you and X will shower the warden with Mother's Day gifts, if X remembers. and he will get shafted yet again on Father's Day. Does the warden do podcasts with you?
No, the warden does not. I like how he is accurate. I like how he already knows that we did something for Mother's Day, right? X, he's a wild card. He's a question mark. So I'm interested to see if X does anything for Mother's Day. And we got you a Father's Day gift. Thank you very much.
You did not get me a Father's Day gift.
Oh, that's bullshit. That's BS. There you go.
Alex Catsano says Marley trade.
Marner. Maybe he's talking about Marner. Now
I'm all for it.
Okay, he's a problem. I think he's a problem. I think he's a problem in Toronto.
I could give a shit. I don't care. He's got talent. He'd be our best player from day one.
Ugh.
He's better than Matt Barzell. Just is.
Oh, fucking stop.
He's better than Matt Barzell. He's actually a better player overall than Matt Barzell. He certainly is.
Stop.
He scores. He scores. He scores. He puts the puck in the net. He puts the puck in the net.
Who's Mitch Marner play with?
He puts the puck in the net. Doesn't matter. He puts the puck in the net.
Daniel Sedin was a better player than Mitch Marner ever dreams to be. Daniel Sedin was a better player than Mitch Marner could ever dream to be. He's in the Hall of Fame. Mitch Marner ain't making no fucking Hall of Fame with the performance.
Mitch Marner be the best player on this team.
Marner's an underperforming, freaking cancerous son of a bitch. I've got no interest in having him on this team.
You're a loser. You're a loser. You're the typical loser Islander fan.
Guess what?
Happy. You know what? I don't want to ever hear you complain why the Islanders. You better get off of your high horse and think the Islanders aren't good if you're not willing to make a trade for Mitch Marner. That's on you. That's on you.
The team is already past their peak. Trading away future. What do you think Toronto's going to say? Oh, we're not looking for any future.
I didn't say it's. I trade Adam Pelech, Brock Nelson, any of the shit that they think.
That's what they're going to want. That's what they're going to want. Trade me a guy who's been injury prone and been playing like he's at a soft candy shell over the last 2 seasons. Sign me up for him.
How long do you think? How long do you think their window is with the group they have?
They have no window because he's a cancerous cell. He's cancer.
Well, guess what? Then if they move Mitch Marner and bring in a Brock Nelson and Adam Pelech, you don't think that makes Toronto?
You think they're going to say, yes, bring another 32-year-old forward and Brock Nelson who's seen his play decline? Yes, sign me up for that. Yeah, bring me in a guy who's been hideous on the defensive side, who's been injured multiple seasons in a row. Sign me up for that too. They're not interested in our garbage, okay? They're not.
All I'm saying is anyone saying that they wouldn't take Mitch Marner on the team is a fool. You said it. You're a fool.
For what the prices I would. For what the price is going to be, I would.
Fool.
Yeah,
you're a fool.
Let's trade away the next 4 years of first-round draft picks.
I would trade draft picks.
Let's trade away Noah Dobson, right? What do you think they're realistically going to ask?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Here's
the thing. It makes the Islanders more fun to watch. It makes them more fun to watch. They're not winning a Stanley Cup for the next who knows how many years. They won't even contend for the next 7, 8, 9 years if they make everything go. If everything goes right. That's not going to happen.
If it included Noah Dobson, are you signing up for that?
I'll take not. Well, if you're not planning on signing Noah Dobson to a big long-term extension, absolutely.
Fuck. Ridiculous.
If you're not looking to re-sign him to a big deal, and they don't have the money, so it's like they can't re-sign him to a deal now. Rick Rock says, hi, guys. After careful rumination, I've concluded the Islanders don't get very far in the playoffs because they were down 2 top 6 forwards. Not their fault. They only have 4 on the roster. The Islanders weren't down any top 6 forwards. They were healthy. The whole team was healthy.
What top Rick Rock? I'm not sure if maybe you're being facetious. That's the only thing I could think is the case. We weren't down any top. The only players we were missing off of our roster were Scott Mayfield, who was replaced essentially. That's all we were missing was
by Robert Bertuzzo, who scored the game-winning goal. Without him, we'll probably get swept.
So yes, I don't think did we miss any forwards?
I don't think we had any. Everyone was healthy. Whole team was healthy.
I was about to say it wasn't like we weren't missing guy. Casey, like Barzal was healthy, Bo Horvat was healthy, Kyle Palmieri was healthy, Brock Nelson was healthy. We had Casey Zizekas, Anders Lee, Pierre Engvall. All these players are healthy. I assume he's just being facetious. That's fine. Lou even says this is George Pace. I'm willing partners. What NHL general manager is taking a pile of crap we need to get rid of? That is exactly the point. They're not gonna just go ahead and take, hey, sign me up for the pile of shit you have, and you're trying to sell it off to me. George P says here, we have to extinguish a country club mentality, which is rampant here. It's funny. More and more people are mentioning they've got it in writing form as well as online and in articles. The Islanders, they've got a country club mentality. We've been talking about that for years. Years on this show.
Years.
Oh God, yes, Tommy B. All the laughable rumors have begun. We're getting Marner, Chikrin, Ehlers. Yes, that was another one. Hey, maybe we can get Chikrin and Ehlers, Nikolai Ehlers. They're shopping him, right? All guys that are 28 years old, except Chikrin, right? Ehlers is 28 years old, who's going to have a contract extension coming up next year.
The Islanders, there's going to be no moves made in the offseason. They're going to re-sign Mike Riley.
Yes.
And they're going to hope that they can. Oh, actually, they don't need to make any moves. They can bring the whole team back. You'll have Holmstrom will play on the third line, or Kyle McLean. He'll be up next time full time. Who do you need to replace? You got everybody there. There's no moves are going to be made in the offseason. None. Absolutely none.
Goon Grump.
Are the Islanders as strong as they look, or is it merely their first two opponents pooped the sleeping bag? I think the Rangers are pretty good. Peter Laviolette's a really good coach.
Yep.
He's a really good coach. And like I said, Carolina's special teams have not been good, and their goaltending has been horrible. Nick D says, Grumpy, TJ, Sun X, how you guys doing tonight? Keep preaching, Grumpstradamus. You are 90% correct, unlike Phil's fiction. Yeah, Phil's wrong every time. Dave Johnson says, annoyed at the fans who are afraid to embrace change, scared of even obvious moves like replacing Martin, trading Pajot, or a new GM, let alone anything bold or imaginative. Got to shake things up, without a doubt. But here's the thing. If the majority of the fan base is just happy with the team being a loser, why would ownership change anything?
If they're still getting paid, they don't give a shit.
That's right.
Good. Let's just go ahead, and it's going to be so brutally bad because you continue to incentivize this mediocrity. It's going to get awful. That's what's going to happen. Nobody's blaming ourselves.
Most of these owners, they're not altruistic.
No.
It's about making money for them. That's what it's about.
Yes.
I mean, and that's these guys strike. Here's the thing, they're not afraid to spend money. They just trusted the wrong guy to take it to the bank. That's all.
Yeah.
The fossil.
Rick Roma-Grump.
He's like, George Bailey's uncle, the one who used to tie the shit around there on his fingers. What did I do? What did I remember? Well, oh my God, what was this? Lost the $8,000. Lost $80 million to the team. Good job, Lamoriello. Rick Roma says, I agree with TJ. Carolina looks like crap to me. This isn't the same Carolina team that we're used to. Well,
yes, it's not.
Here's the thing. Maybe it is the same team, but they're just much better against
low. The Rangers are a lot better than what everybody's expecting. The Rangers are legit then.
TJ's a Rangers fan.
No, I'm just asking you. If Carolina's not playing poorly, then the Rangers are playing really well, right?
I think the Rangers power play in particular has been really good. And it's the goaltenders. The difference in that series, the goaltenders.
Fuck.
Period.
Okay.
Period. The goaltenders.
It's the special teams. Guess what? They have given up a shorthanded goal and are 1 for 17 on the power play. It's the special teams. That is the biggest difference in the series. JP,
who's your best player on the power
play? Biggest
play?
difference is the power play.
It's the goalie. The goalie's your best your best penalty killer.
JP
says the Islanders definitely have the better tender than the Canes. Shesterkin is really good, and his defense plays well in front of him as far as letting him see the puck and stay out of the slot.
The Rangers, I think. I don't know if you said the Islanders, Rangers, whatever it is, but the Rangers. Goon says, a few of the lads went out for a night of fun for Matty Mart's B-Day recently. His wife shared the photo on social media. Why wasn't Grumpy invited to this?
Because they probably wanted me to pay, and I said, F you.
I'll be honest with you. You know what? We don't have enough people to give a shit on this team. We really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go out and party. Let's go celebrate Matty Mart. Dude, God, fuck. I just wish we had some people out there be like, I'm just so pissed off. I'm seething that we got kicked out in the first round of the postseason. I can't even think about partying.
Was anyone really?
I've got to focus on getting better. We want to win fucking games.
Was anyone really upset?
I want to have somebody like a Larry Bird hermit who lives, eats, and breathes basketball. I want a guy like that for our hockey team. That's who I want.
Was there anyone who was really upset after the series?
No. Anderson, his little frowny face, and that was that. That's
we
it.
could have done better. They don't care. They just don't care.
Oh man! I tell you. Here you go, Grumpy. Dave Johnson.
You guys see the picture of Josh Bailey serving drinks at the cul-de-sac clue at Matty Martin's birthday party. It's like the Hotel of California over there.
Jesus.
That's right. Do you know that?
I didn't see. Hold on. Let me pull this picture up. Maybe he had Nick. Well, all it's going to do is piss me off. Nick D.
I'm ready for the 9-year rebuild for the Islanders. It took the Canucks that long.
Yeah. Rebuilds take all different amounts of time.
Yeah.
And they don't. Sometimes you have to rebuild on top of a rebuild.
It all depends on how you draft.
That's exactly, and nothing is a fixed science when it comes to the draft. It's as simple as that. Joseph C. Grump.
As good as Aho is for Carolina, he's at best a second best player on a Stanley Cup team, maybe the third best player. I think Sebastian Aho is really good. They need a Matt Tkachuk type or a Brad Marchand type on that team. They need a little edge, which would make a big difference for them. I said a couple of years ago when Florida made that deal, everyone else said, no, that's a bad deal. Look what you're giving up. Like, Florida needed a heart transplant. So is Carolina.
God almighty. Here's the picture. Hold on a second. Frank Islanders says here, the Islanders had a successful season according to our GM. Blah.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Nothing, unfortunately, Matthew C. He'll re-sign back.
Matthew C's question was, Grump, what do you think Lou does? I don't think he's going to do anything.
He'll sign back Mike Riley, and that's about that.
He'll sign Mike Riley back. He's going to give him way too long a term and way too much money. Mike Rileys are available on the street today. You don't need the Mike Riley. 1 year, $1 million. That's it. You don't like it? See you later. It wouldn't stun me if he's already signed.
Here you go, Robbie. Eric Roma.
It's not just the goaltending, in my opinion. Kane seems to be totally out of position against the Rangers. The power play is also totally lost, and Rod is making no adjustments.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with you, Rick. Grumpy does not. That's fine. Here we go. Just take a look. See. Look at them all. Look at this. It can't make it bigger, so you're just gonna have to look. Here's Adam Pellick. What are you saying, Grumpy?
Adam Pellick with the TJ haircut.
Oh, okay. You can see him though.
Clutterbuck down the bottom. Martin.
Clutterbuck, Martin, Matt Barzal. He's going to be part of the cult. He's Matt Barzal and Noah Dobson have submitted their cul-de-sac crew.
Okay, look at this. This is your crew right here. Pellick, Pulak, Horvat, Barzell, his Bailey. Average.
Bailey's still part of the cul-de-sac.
Average.
Bailey's still part of the cul-de-sac, guys.
Noah Dobson, Matty Martin, and Cal Clutterbuck. There it is. There it is. Right there in a nutshell. Do you want to know what's wrong with the Islanders? There it is. There you go. You want to know why the Islanders are a bad team? That's why. All smiling. How many games was that? How many days was that after they got beat out? You would think they'd still be
a week. This
is way too happy.
A week and a half. Let me ask you this. You think when Matt Tkachuk, when they lost the Stanley Cup Finals, do you think he was going out there next week? Hey, baby. Yeah, let's go taking pictures. We're celebrating. Hey, we made it to the Cup Finals. That's okay. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Do you think they were smiling all around, posing on social media, so happy? I'm sorry.
That's what separates.
I need a Larry Bird. I need somebody who's like a hermit who lives, eats, and breathes this sport. That's what I want.
That's what separates the Tom Brady's, Michael Jordan's, Larry Bird's from the rest of the players.
Yeah.
Honestly. The season's over. Hey, we're getting ready for next year.
You think Tom Brady, when he lost in the Super Bowl, was like, hey, thumbs up, baby. This is pretty good. We made it to the Super Bowl. Yeah.
He only took maybe a day or two off, and he was right back out there getting ready for the next year.
And when they were losing, they weren't all smiles, happy, posing for pictures, celebrating birthdays. Like, fuck, we need to make sure we're ready to go. We need to win this next Super Bowl. Man, I just want somebody like that on this team. Somebody like that. Anyway, here's the thing. They're very rare. They're very rare to have. I just would love those.
Bill Parcells said once that losing hurts more than winning feels good.
Yes, and that's how it is. It really is that way.
Those are for people. Those are the type of people you want as leaders, or the type of players where it kills you to lose, and winning is almost, well, okay. We did what we're supposed to do.
As soon as day one happened, from day one after the elimination of the playoffs to where the day the first season starts, you're like, we got to get revenge. We got to do better. We've got the same way the team was unbelievably motivated after John Tavares left, where they were out there on a mission because they wanted revenge for being treated the way they were, and him leaving, and how much they kind of always still, it bothers them that they left the way. I need that type of mentality all off season long. That's what I'd love to see. Rangers Panthers will be a great Eastern Conference Finals game. Absolutely. Nick D says here, Grumpy, do you think that Wall will influence Idiot Lou for certain people? for certain players. I'm
It
sorry.
depends if Malkin gave him that power or not. But here's the thing. The problem with the Islanders is not, I'd like to see player X or player Y. It's, you have no money. We can't move anyone because the stupid old general manager signed everyone to long-term deals that are immovable, that you'd have to give up assets to get rid of them.
Yeah. Charles says here, Grumpy's grumpy because the Canes suck. Yeah, the Canes aren't playing well. I think that is why Grumpy's upset. I said last Wednesday, Grumpy's getting all upset again.
I could care less who wins the Stanley Cup this year. I could care less. I do want to, here's the thing. I think Florida, I'd like to see a Florida-Dallas series. I think that'd be really good. Or even Florida-Colorado, honestly. I think that'd be a great series.
Tim J says,
who do we have to trade, and what player would waive a no-trade clause, say like a Mitch Marner, to come to the Islanders? Nobody. That's right.
It's not happening. That's why I'm like, when we
and
keep
we're not,
looking at that, it's not happening.
None of our players are going to waive their no-trade clauses. You want to know why? Because they might actually have to be held accountable playing for another organization, where here they don't have to.
I don't think they get lollipop questions up there in Toronto like they do here in New York. I'll tell you that. Joseph C. I'll let you read this one here.
Valiquette made a good point on the Rangers broadcast. Their offense is chaos. Throwing everything at the net 40 times a game isn't good enough. I think they need a net front presence. They really do. I don't think they have one. They need a bastard to stand in front of the net. That's what they need.
Rick Rock says here, we need to get younger, faster, and more skilled this offseason. Waugh needs to drill this into Lou's head. Blood-sucking freak style.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're so limited with the terms of the contracts and no cap space. We only have $6.3 million worth of cap space going into next year. Who are you bringing in on that?
Nick D says here, Phil's fiction faction are the ones who kiss Lou's ass. Effing fire Lou Lamoriello and his son.
Yeah, they're all wrong. They're all
Nick D says here, October 21st of 2024, Lou will turn 82 years old. Don't the owners realize that Lou is effing old?
I don't even think they care.
He's the oldest general manager in the history of the NHL by quite a bit.
In the history of sports.
That's right. I'm sorry. The history of sports. He's the oldest GM in the history of sports.
Connie Mack was pretty old as a GM, but he owned the team too. Tough to fire yourself.
JP said, weekend at Louis is coming to UBS. Oh, gosh. Scott Levy says here, Lou and Garth Snow. Lou has the Garth Snow Islanders contract. Oh, God. And then Jazz says here, the owners are disillusioned. Mikey D says here, I can't see Waugh being complacent with minimal roster change by Lou. That should be the only Islanders fan feeling of hope.
You're forgetting where he came from. I think he's been promised
JHL.
Yeah, I mean, he had no offers.
8 years. 8 years without an offer to be an NHL head coach.
So what does it tell you? I think he's been promised the GM job. He's just biding his time. That's what I truly feel.
I don't. That's fine. Jazz says here, the only way change is going to come is if these fans boycott the games.
True.
I agree. Absolutely.
Speak with your pocketbook.
Alex K said, yes, Mayfield never got over his broken ankle. Yes, Mayfield broke his ankle at the beginning of the season or had a broken bone in his foot, and that's why he played poorly all year long.
He'll be back 100%. Yeah. Unless they screwed up the surgery.
Well, he tried to get him back early, and it just continued to get worse and worse, I guess, over time. Now, here's the thing. That's not the first time Mayfield's broken his foot.
Okay, but think about this. Why would they try to rush him back? Because they had no one who could step up and fill his spot, maybe?
Because we were missing Pelech and Pulak at the time period too, Grump.
Oh, well, you got no depth. None.
Vinny L says here, the worst run organization in the NHL, the owners deserve everything they get.
That's a little strong.
They're not the worst. They're far from the worst. Now, that being said, right, the owners, it's us. The fans are the ones who get affected. We get affected by their incompetence, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to watch Islander games, or I'd like to be able to root for Islander games, but tough to do that these days. Jazz says here, bring back the same team next year. What an effing joke.
True.
And here you go. Alex K says Barzal regressed.
I disagree.
I disagree as well. Sorry. You go, Tony G's.
would those contracts or part of the contract still count against the cap if they all died in a plane crash? I think they would not.
Varlamov's contract would, because he was given a contract at the age of 35 years
Not
old.
true. Not true. I think the NHL would let those contracts come off the book. There's no way that they're going to make you keep cap space for dead players. No way.
Okay. JP says
You can't say like they tried to stash him on the injured list. I mean, they're in a pine box.
Return questionable. You go. Mikey D says here the Islanders front office is Lou, his son, and the cap guy. That's embarrassing for the NHL franchise. 3 people. Well, his son is in. He's the GM.
It's Lamoriello. Everything in the organization happens because of Lou Lamoriello. Everything.
Yep. Malkin wants this team to stay mediocre to keep the fans in the seats after the All-Star break.
Maybe the All-Star game.
I don't know what it is, but it just pisses me off. That's all. Joseph C says here, none of the Leafs stars really showed up in the playoffs. How does a team with that much firepower average 2 goals a game in the postseason? Because Boston owns Toronto.
They do.
Toronto has not beaten Boston in a best-of-7 series, since 1953?
1959.
1959, I'm sorry. They have not beaten them, think about it, in 70 plus, almost 70 years. They haven't beaten them in a series. Boston says, yeah, please sign us up. We'd love to play Toronto. We're chomping at the bit because we're going to manhandle Toronto.
And here's the thing. Boston was outplayed by Toronto in that series.
Yep.
Swayman was a way better goalie than the other guys.
Yes. Here you go, Grumpy. My little brownie.
Just like I said on the last show, Lou sold ownership on third place finish as a positive, a jumping off point. So gross. 100% agree. 100%.
Yep.
He thinks that
just trying to turn everything
is good enough.
How can things be positive?
David Johnson says, just curious, do you think Tavares objectively should be in the Hall of Fame? What's his legacy? I don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
If he won a cup, maybe, but he's not, unfortunately. I would like for him to be in the Hall of Fame, but he won't.
I don't think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Joseph, he says, I appreciate you jinxing us sweeping Carolina, by the way. Gamesmanship. Good, sir.
There it is. We do always jinx. Anytime we say it's pretty much a done deal, usually the opposite happens. Goon.
Grumpy, which Freddie will be more cherished and celebrated when it's all said and done? Anderson or Mercury? Well, Freddie Anderson's not even probably the most popular Freddie in his house. So I'd say Freddie Mercury.
Jazz says the ownership is clueless. Explosive Diary says here, we are the Bobcats of the NBA.
No, we're better than the Bobcats.
The Bobcats are bad. I could just tell you.
Well, first of all, there are no more Bobcats. They're back to being the Hornets.
Yes. Angelina,
long time no here. We are not competitive and won't be for a bunch of seasons. Lou has no business having a job at this point. True. Absolutely 100% true on everything.
Got a comment here from Rick Roma.
Canes look awful. There are a ton of free agents and a cheap ass owner. That's one thing. They don't spend a whole lot of money. They're no longer a scary team. I don't know who plays goal for them. Carolina, your time is up. If Carolina's time is up, what does it say about the Islanders?
We never had a time.
And here's the thing, Carolina's time is not up. David Rosenthal says the debate over who is better is over. Shesterkin head and shoulders better than Sorokin. Well, he plays for a better team. So he will look better playing for a better team.
I think over time we'll see, but it's leaning that Shesterkin's been the better goalie so far. But I think it's close. I think Shesterkin's the better goalie so far. If you had asked us last year, I think everybody was saying Sorokin. That's the thing. They're both 2 elite caliber goalies. And ideally, I'd love to see every year we flip-flop because that year Sorokin steps up his game. And then Shesterkin, it's just good. It's good for the sport. It's good for competition. Tommy B.
Lou is finished. All this bullcrap talk does not help.
Yep. Lou's sitting back the organization 8 years or more. I mean, the rebuild's going to be a long and arduous one.
We're already on year 3 of a rebuild. Just because we don't do anything.
We could have been on year 3 of a rebuild already.
We are on year 3 because the team has not gotten better. We've not advanced. We've gone backwards. We are in rebuild.
No, except we're not actually rebuilding. We're still tearing it down. We're
not doing anything. We're not doing anything.
We're making the rebuild harder is what we're doing.
Okay. We're not rebuilding. We're not tearing down. We're not improving. We're just treading water.
We're trading away our future picks is what we're doing. Scott L.
Before the series against the Rangers, I said, watch the Canes forget how to play hockey and Freddie Anderson turns into a sieve. Well, it's not that they've forgotten to play hockey. Carolina is so much better than the Islanders. There's really not much difference how they're playing now. Now, Freddie Anderson is not good. He's not good.
Tyler Brownie said, do you consider Matthews, Marner, Nylander better than Barzal? Because those three elites are on one team and have zero chance at a cup.
Well, I don't know if anyone remembers.
Matthews absolutely is.
And so are the other two guys.
No.
I take all three of them over Matt Barzal. All three of them are better players than Matt Barzal. And it's not a crime. You're talking about three of what? The top 15 players in the league?
What did Marner do this year?
I don't know. Look at Marner's career. You can't look at, I'm just going to look at 1 year.
Mitch Marner has played with significantly better players. He had 85 points in 69 games this year. So very good.
And that's a down year for him.
It's not. He's usually around 99 points in 80 games. So he had 85 in 70 games or 69 games this year. So it's almost about on status quo. Here's the thing. He's playing consistently with better players. He has a much better power play unit as well to play with. And Matt Barzal doesn't have that.
Okay. So, here's Mitch Marner's numbers. At
right.
19, 61 points, 69, 94, 67, 67, 97, 99, 85.
He's playing with Matthews, John Tavares. Okay, gotcha. So who you play with has nothing to do with your offensive production. Sounds good. Let's put Matt Barzal, Leo Komarov, and Josh Bailey out there, and I'm expecting him to put up 90-plus points a season.
I take Mitch Marner in a nanosecond on this team. Anybody who wouldn't is a fool. Okay. I stick with that.
Okay, you're not answering any of the questions, but that's you, though. David Rosenthal, Grump.
Who are you going to replace Lou with? No more Garth Snow experiments. You know what? There are look at a good team who's got an assistant general manager. That's the guy you poach. There you go. Or blow him out of the water offer to a guy like Don Waddell. Or,
says here, this team will be dreadful next year. I'm not sure. They're going to still be trying to be average. They're going to be right around the same spot. Same thing. Rick Roma, Grumpy.
Florida and Boston killing each other too. The longer that series goes, the better for the Rangers. That series is going to end in 2 more games. It'll be over.
Florida Panthers are a good team. They're damn good.
Florida's really good.
John Bushy.
It's easy to criticize a Hall of Fame general manager. Okay, Lou Lamoriello has not been a Hall of Fame general manager for 20-something years.
So he's been a GM for what, the last 20? When's the last time he won a cup? 24, 25 years ago?
2001, maybe.
So 23 years ago.
With the Devils?
He's been a GM for the last 23 years with no Stanley Cup appearances.
And there was no salary cap back then either. He was great. He was great before the salary cap era. He can't handle it.
For a Hall of Fame GM, he has been a general manager for the last 23 years without even one of his teams making a Stanley Cup Finals. There are 2 teams every year that make a Stanley Cup Finals. That's 52. I'm sorry. That's 56 over the last 23 years. None of his teams have done that.
Was he the GM when the Devils went in the late 2000s, one of the 2000s? He might have still been the GM.
Okay, maybe he was. I don't remember. Maga says
back then he was even signing freaking Kovalchuk the 10-year freaking extensions.
I'm probably wrong. So maybe he had one team that made a Stanley Cup Finals, and maybe I'm wrong. So Maga says,
but here's it. He killed New Jersey. They didn't let him kill Toronto. They kicked him upstairs, and he's killing the Islanders.
I agree.
Maga says, hard to believe we were favorites to win the 2021 Stanley Cup. Not in my book, they weren't.
I do remember people were going out there saying that. Rick Roma.
Grumpy old man, can you do an emergency podcast when Lou trades the 18th overall pick? I think we might do that draft. Maybe that draft.
Perhaps we might. Freedom Fund Adventure Grump.
Ownership took hope away from the fan base, except the morons who think the Islanders are cup contenders. Retaining failed general manager Lamoriello lets me know we have to listen to his BS, and on ice will be weak again. True.
Unfortunately so. Let's continue to pull through here. Oh, X missed a lot of comments. That's fine. We're at the tail end here. Let's see. Okay. I've got a comment there from Tony Cheese.
I watch these playoff games now, and it just seems like the Islanders were playing a completely different sport. Yeah, they're not good enough. Just not good enough. And here's the thing. It's there's nothing wrong to be not good enough, but not responding and reacting and just thinking running it back is going to be the answer. That's the crime. Rain says, hearing as a Jets fan, rumors of Ehlers are heating up. Heard
Ehlers.
some thoughts that the Islanders would have interest, would be interested in one of your thoughts here. Jets needing a top 4D. Would you move Pelech or Pulak for Nikolai Ehlers?
Our defense is hideous.
Would you trade one of those guys for Nicholas Ehlers? I would.
Sure. Here's the problem, though. He's going to be another guy who's on a contract season coming up this next year, and you're going to be a 28-year-old guy that you're going to be extending for a long-term contract.
He's a guy who's going to play longer than others. He does not play a physical game. His game is predicated on, he's a finesse guy. He's not a run you through the boards type forward. He's not Mark Scheifele. Let me just put it to you that way.
I'm just looking up Eli's numbers. Oh my God, Ehlers' numbers. He's around he just had 61 points this last year in 82 games. He's hurt usually every year too. God almighty.
He fits right in with this group.
Here's the thing. He definitely helps our top six. Absolutely, he does. Winnipeg's in bad shape. Rain, if you're a Winnipeg fan, Winnipeg's in bad shape. I'm sorry.
They're not in bad shape. They're better off than the Islanders are.
They're not in shape to win a cup anytime soon. They're not in great shape.
Okay.
They're not.
They're better off than the Islanders.
A lot of teams are better off than the Islanders. I take almost the majority of teams in the NHL right now over the Islanders. I really would.
Freedom Fund Adventure says, interesting how easily Carolina dismissed the Islanders and how bad they're being handled by the Rangers. Islanders are so soft and don't care for the most part. Do you have faith Lou can do the job? I don't. All talk. Yeah, Lamoriello's not the guy for the job. Not anymore. He's not.
Oh, he said, no, I didn't come up with a battered fan syndrome. I just made it an acronym. Oh, okay, gotcha. Alexander said, Carolina and that fraud-ass team, Rod Brindamore, is a fraud coach. Well, what does it say that we lost to a fraud of a team?
Got rolled. 2 years in a row, rolled.
Yep, there you go. Tommy B.
TJ, Dobson has to want to stay here to do that. Of course, you offer Dobson a long-term deal, but you can't control if he wants to leave. That if I'm Noah Dobson, there is no freaking way I'm signing a long-term deal here. None. Unless hey, I like where I'm living. I fit in with the cul-de-sac. I don't,
He gets invited to Maddie Mart's birthday. That type of stuff. Drew says here, podcast reminder, fire Lou Lamoriello immediately. Simple Wine says here, trade with Toronto, Nelson and Pelech for Marner and a prospect, Easton Cowan. We get speed and scoring talent. Have Isaiah George replace Pelech. I tell you,
Isaiah George isn't even close to being NHL ready.
It's funny because that's been the new thing. Phil has been posting about, oh man, Isaiah George in the postseason is leading his team in points, and they've got a top 5 pick in this. I'm like, Isaiah George is 20 years old playing against 16, 17, and 18-year-old boys. He should be leading his team in every facet of the game.
He's 20. Isn't he 20?
He's 20, yes. Yeah. It's like the fans. It's the same thing that happened with Matthew Maggiu. The same thing that happened with William Dufour. It's like we treat as if a guy is an overager and he's 2 to 3 years older, more mature than everybody out there on the ice, that he shouldn't be the best player out there. He should. Michael Bechet.
Unfortunately, we can't rebuild as long as losing control. If the Property Brothers were serious, they would get rid of the old man. True.
Yep. Here you go. Rain
says, it's just interesting to me the Jets and the Islanders have had similar challenges for playoffs and regular seasons for a while now, but one team has way more first-round picks and prospects.
Yes.
Maybe
Yes. No, just ... Yes.
Yeah.
They do. Winnipeg has actually been keeping their first-round picks. What a novel idea that would be. Drew L.
The Mitch Marner thing is just Twitter noise. I'd like him on this team, but don't get me wrong. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think that the Islanders they can't do anything. The old man isn't creative enough to make a hockey trade anymore, unless it requires multiple first and second round picks for, guys who are past the prime. They see him coming a mile away.
Do you remember when we said multiple times, Brad Lambert? He was related to Lane Lambert. It's funny, right? 20 years old. Oh, yeah, 20 years old. This year in the A, he put up 55 at 20 years old, 55 points in 64 games, and he played one game in the NHL with 1 assist in 1 game. 30th overall, a guy who had the talent, slipped all the way. Rucker McGrody, another, right, 14th, right after a 13th overall pick. Right, they've been keeping their draft picks. They've been drafting players. They've been saying, we're still not giving those away. Look, God almighty, I'm disappointed with our team. I'm disappointed.
You must, unless you are right there ready to win, you cannot trade away first round draft picks.
Scott L says, I'll take Nikolai Ehlers over Marner.
Oh, I would.
Rick Roma, Grump.
If Lou can pull off a Marner trade with no prospects in the system and roster players that Toronto would want, I'd be stunned. It's not happening.
Yeah, it's not happening. JP says here, Mitch Marner would be the most skilled player on the Islanders roster by a mile. Matt Barzal being the only player who was close, but does come up small when game gets tighter and he becomes frustrating. Yeah.
I'd rather have a more fun regular season if I'm going to get my ass kicked in the playoffs every year than watching them slog through every single game.
Coach Tommy B says here, Waugh wanted the Rangers job, but they were not comfortable hiring him. Well,
yeah,
they made the right decision.
He was practically blackballed from the league.
Coach Tommy B says here, Carolina needs Anders Lee, grumpy old man. Get it done.
They would never take him. He does not fit them at all.
Drew L says here, one thing I've learned about New York as a state is when it comes to their sports, their fans, sports fans, is the suburban New Yorkers are cupcake soft as Charmin. The city boys are the ones who are actually tough-minded. Okay. I don't know. I'll have to take your word for it. Coach Tommy B says here, Brad Marchand ruled out for game 4 with a concussion.
Here's the thing about Florida also. They finally got Sam Bennett back. He's been gone for quite a while, and he came and he knocked Marchand out. Boom.
B40.
There was a time that if players lost the first round and didn't make the playoffs, they couldn't afford to go out to dinner and drinks anymore. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They make so much money now. Yep. Drew says, honestly, Grumpy, you should take that picture of the Instagram photo, post it on your Twitter, and caption it, "This is why the Islanders need a rebuild." I don't know what picture he's talking about.
The one of the team, the cul-de-sac crew. Yeah. Good, Tommy B.
X is supposed to get me to take a picture from my Twitter thing.
Okay.
Tommy Babbitt says, don't tell the grumpy old man the Islanders' 2 big additions this offseason are Bailey and Beauvillier.
Oh, my gosh. That'd be great. TJ, the rumor is Pelican, a first rounder, and another player trade Holmstrom while he still has value. Maybe that's for more.
Holmstrom has no value. Okay. If would you trade Pellick, a first rounder, and another player for Mitch Marner? You're freeing up cap space.
It's not going to happen.
I know it's not.
Because it was like, they'll give him Pellick and Jean-Gabriel Pageau and a first-round pick. Guess what? It's not going to happen, and it's not even worth thinking of because it's not happening, unfortunately. I'd take that in a heartbeat. Mitch Marner, giving away Pellick, who I think is finished as a player, giving away Jean-Gabriel Pageau, who I think is on the wrong side of 30, and a 18th overall pick for Mitch Marner. Yeah, sign me up for that in a heartbeat, but it's not going to happen, unfortunately. New York Ranger Mike says here, why doesn't ownership fire Lou Lamoriello? It's best if the Islanders break the team up and rebuild, get all draft picks, and work from there. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I would be happy with that. I really would. Tony Cheese says here, I coined the phrase property brothers, and my ego wants you guys to acknowledge that every time it's mentioned.
I didn't realize Tony Cheese did that. I remember you were talking with Tommy Baffy on the show one time, and the two of you were talking about it. I didn't know who came up with it.
Yeah, I think Tony Cheese, and he sent us the picture for the meme. So yes, it was Tony Cheese. I think he was definitely involved in some capacity.
And not to shoot you down, Tony Cheese, but isn't the Property Brothers a TV show like on HGTV?
Yeah, but he went ahead and posted them on that. So it was a good job by Tony Cheese. Okay. Nick M says here, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about getting Pierre-Luc Dubois on the cheap if the Kings buy him out? Well, they're not going to buy him out, so I don't see them doing that. How many years left does Pierre-Luc Dubois have?
If they buy him out, he's free to sign with anywhere, so that means he's not coming here.
That's cute. He's on an 8-year think about it. He's on an 8-year contract.
They say that they're not going to buy him out. They said they're not going to buy him.
Yeah, because he would be on the hit for them for fucking like 15, 16 years if they bought him out. He's getting 8-year, $8.5 million a year. He's not getting bought out. No shot in hell. Here you go. Next comment there.
State Revival says, what did you guys think of the Pasternak
Tkachuk fight? Again, here's the thing. Tkachuk is that mean, nasty bastard that you hate to play against, but love to have him on your team. If he's imagine a gnarlier, meaner Ryan Kessler. That's who Kachuk reminds me of. He's a guy who's got talent, and he's much more talented than Ryan Kessler was. He's mean, and he knows what it takes to win. He is a fucking winner. I like Kachuk. I wish we had Kachuk on this team, but there's a reason why everybody at the beginning, oh my God, you had to give up Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar. Oh my gosh, that's not going to work out. Guess what? It absolutely did for Florida, and they're saying, thank God we made that trade. And guess who's saying, oh, we lost that trade?
Who was the only one? The only one.
We both said
you
it.
didn't. You absolutely did not. You absolutely did not. I was the one who said that was a great deal. You were the other camp.
Hey, Grumpy, why don't you just go ahead and do me a favor? Look back at the podcast because you're wrong. We both agreed on this. You're just wrong.
You didn't.
You're wrong.
You don't agree with me most times. That's why the only time you agree, the only time you're right is when you agree with me. Drew says, our ownership is better than Michael Jordan, guys. Come on now. The Hornets have been bad under Jordan practically every season. I don't think he owns a team anymore.
He doesn't. Coach Tommy B.
Carolina needs to go get Markstrom or Saros.
That would make them immediately better. SP.
Yeah. I personally think that Lou and Wah, will make roster decisions together as a hint that Lou is grooming Wah for the GM position. He's not grooming him for anything. The owner hired him, not Lamoriello. The owner hired him and told him, you're going to be the GM. We're going to slide the old man out next year, 2 years from now, whatever it is, and you're going to be the new GM. That is what's going to happen. I said it. You didn't say it, TJ. I said it the day he was signed.
You were wrong on that.
Well, here's the thing. I don't want you trying to take credit for it a year from now.
I won't. I don't.
You're doing everything else.
Your memory's old. You're getting towards Lou Lamoriello's age these days, Grumpy.
Wrong. I'll be right. I'll be right. You'll be wrong. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Anyway, let's wrap things up here. Grumpy old man. X only wanted to start, I guess, selected comments, so he just did what he did.
Well, that's what he does. He picks selected comments, and
what he did was he just missed an hour-and-a-half swath of comments, or an hour-long portion of comments. So he just did at the beginning and then at the end. So I'm sorry, guys. X, per typical X fashion, just clocking in, half-assing his job, and then clocking out at the end.
And just so you know, Lou's last Cup win was in 2003, so 20 years ago.
21 years. Yeah. But let's wrap things up here, Grumpy. What do you want to say before we wrap up the show today?
I want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens, and even those who don't, from TJ, the grumpy old man, and Son X.
Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Thank you always for the comments, for the input, for the ideas, for the discussion. Today, we talked about what is a potential route forward. I guess next episode, we're going to be talking about it's popular. People keep saying rebuilds don't work. Rebuilds never work. So we're going to be talking about that and I guess debunking that ridiculous thought process. And then we are going to have a call-in show, the show after that. So, yes, and then we're going to start having guests back into the full swing of things. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning into the show today. Thank you, Grumpy Old Man. We'll see you guys Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks so much, Grumpy.
My pleasure.